Hi, good day. Nandito na naman tayo ngayon sa klase natin sa Socio 111 and we are already in our almost last topics. And our topic for today in week 12 is all about work and the economy. So alam naman natin na work and economy is really an indeed part and plays a role in our society. So kung walang trabaho yung mga tao, magkakagulo, and of course the economy. And oftentimes nga, we are talking about society, yung term nga na socio-economic, social, society, and economy is oftentimes talaga related. Okay? So, let's move on. So, ito yung mga objectives natin. We're going to learn about economic systems, globalization and economy, and work in the United States or even around the world. So, introduction tayo. Ever since talaga, people traded item for one another. Before, kasi yung, related kasi yung economy sa pagpalitan ng mga products, di ba? So, even before talaga, ito tayong ginagawa ng mga tao, meron silang product, and hindi naman talaga sila kompleto sa mga product. So, oftentimes, para makuha na yung other product, example, may ulam ka, wala kang bigas. So, before, wala kasing pera before, in order to have someone's product, may trading. At yun pala, nangyayari yun, in a trade, dun yun nangyayari, some form of economy. May nangyayari ng formation of economy in the world. So, how people optimize what they have to meet their wants and the needs yun na nga by trading before. So, accordingly, economy refers to the social institution through which a society's resources, may it be good or objects, or products, or even services, are managed. So, yan yung meaning ng economy. Kung paano pina-process, mina-manage ang isang goods or services. Where we have here, goods or commodities. So, yung goods or commodities, marinig natin to oftentimes, are physical objects. Yung talagang mga produkto talagang physical, nga nahahawakan. We find, grow, or make in order to meet our needs. So, example sa mga goods na to, like clothing, food, pagkain. So, ito yung mga kailangan natin, not to live but want in a way. So, in contrast to these objects, meron din tinatawag na mga services or programs and services like that benefits people. So, example sa mga serbisyo na to include, so example, related din to sa mga commodities. So, example, paano natin ma-deliver yung food na commodities? We have here food delivery, food preparation. Okay, so related na sila like any other. Example, commodities like medicine and services like medicine is yung ginagawa ng mga doktor, check-up, delivery of services nila, yun, yung services na related din sa program. So, example of this, yun nga, delivery, healthcare, education, and entertainment. Example, sa education, yung commodities dyan may it be mga libro, mga ballpen, and etc. na objects. At yung services dyan, yung pagtuturo ng mga teachers. Okay, so, meron din ditong economic systems. Sila yung mga, sabi ko nga dito, Vladimir Lenin, ang hirap basahin, was one of the founders of Russian communism and J.P. Morgan capitalist. So, malalaman natin ano yan. So, the dominant before, even until now, meron pa rin yung capitalism and socialism. So, madaming countries na nag-switch as their economic from Russia transitioning to market-based economy since the fall of communism. So, nagbabago oftentimes sa ekonomiya. So, example, meron tayo dito economic system sa agricultural level or sa agricultural system, even industrial and post-industrial. So, yan yung economic system sa agricultural. Ano yung commodities dyan? Example, in agricultural economy, crops or yung mga tanim, yung mga crops are the most important commodity. Okay, so yung mga services dyan, ang pag-deliver ng mga commodities na to, so in ang post-industrial naman, yan yung mga information. Okay, example dito, information na related para yung services talaga mapakinabangan ng mga tao. Example, information para paano to gawin, information or mga steps, yan yung oftentimes ngayon. Yan yung lumalabas sa social media, di ba? Oftentimes information. So, in agricultural revolution, the first economies were built on raising crops, mga pagtatanim lang, ang pag-aalaga ng mga hayop, yun. So, yun yung from the animal hunter-gatherer before up to horticulture, even agriculture, nag-evolve siya. Okay, so, meron itong timeline na accordingly sa mga sociologists or archaeologists, sinasabi nila dito na timeline ng agricultural development. So before, 12,000 BCE pa daw ito, sa Egypt daw siya nagsimula accordingly. At umabot siya ng Asia at ng New Guinea, and oftentimes umabot din siya ng Africa at Americas and up to until now. So sabi dito, agricultural began the simplest technology. So sabi dito, pagtatanim lang daw before, para magbungka ng lupa, stick pa daw yung ginagamit. Hanggang sa nag-evolve na gumamit na ng mga animals like baka, kabaw, tuplo, talan. So yung pagtatanim. Okay, so with this new technology, one family could grow enough crops to feed themselves. Okay? So improve naman of efficiency, nagkameron na ng mga emergent technologies, nagkameron na ng mga makina, pinaprocess na. Oftentimes, dahil nagkameron na ganun, medyo naghihirap na yung process kasi nga kailangan na ng pulido talaga since makina yung gumagawa. And of course dito kasi marami na makina, dumadami yung mga tao, kailangan na the more quality yung mangyayari sa farm equipment, kailangan na magkameron na irrigation na rin, and of course din sa animals na rin, hindi na basta-basta kailangan na magkameron ng shepherd, may ibang mga kurso na, example animal science, they are expert to that kind of services. So before, kasi before, wala pa kasing pera before. Okay? So in exchanging materials, hindi pwede na, no one naman before na meron siyang lahat ng mga commodities. Pwedeng may ulam. Example, may ulam ka, wala kang rice, wala kang bigas. So, para magkameron ka ng bigas before, you have to barter. So, kailangan kang mag-trade ng ulam mo para magkameron ka ng rice. So, yung tawag dyan, of course, exchanging form of goods and services is bartering. And later on, nagkameron na rin ng pera. So, it refers to the objects na inagrihan ng mga society na may value niya. Okay? So, in early economies, yung money nila before is shells, rice, sabi ko nga, barley, and even valuable goods. Okay? So, as cities grow into countries and countries grow into empires, the economies grow as well. So, pag nag-grow yung economy, dapat yung supply, yung need dapat nang masupplyan din kasi dumadami na yung mga tao. Dati-dati, maliit pa lang. Okay? So, colonies were established to secure these markets and wars of finance take over the authority. So, of course, may mga tao talaga nag-hoarding, sinusuro nila yung mga kuha nila. Meron tayong tinatawag na go na mercantilism. So, it is an economic policy based on accumulating silver or gold by controlling colonial and foreign markets through taxes and other charges. So, of course naman, pag mayaman na yung isang tao, halos lahat ng pera sa community, sa kanya na, of course, he has to, example sa socialism. Yung socialism kasi, parang lahat ng nasa community natin, parang may contribution dapat yung tao dyan, o meron siyang mayambag sa society niya. So, yan yung idea ng mercantilism din. Economic policy siya, na dapat may tax talaga na mangyari, na it's accumulating silver gold. The resulting restrictive practices and exacting demands included monopolies of bans and of certain goods, high tariffs, and exclusivity. Of course, binaban yung mga nangyayari no, binaban yung certain goods for the sake of economy, para mabalance yung economy. And we move on naman sa ating industrial revolution. So, para kasi yung sa agricultural revolution, of course, mano-mano pa yung lahat. Pagpasok ng industrial revolution, nagkameron na to ng mga makinarya. No? Of course, before, no, until the end, manual labor pa lang. Hanggang sa this change of research led to machines. Nagkameron ng mga machines to manufacture goods, paggawa ng mga produkto. Of course, as people move to cities to fill factory job, factory production also changed. So, the Industrial Revolution also changed agricultural practices until the time many people practice subsistence farming. So, dati-dati talaga, kailangan talaga magtanim para may mga makain. Pero ngayon, para subsistence na lang, at least man lang, kung kailangan lang, dun lang yung magtanim. Okay? No, only enough lang yung tinatanim. No? So, dati-dati, kasi agriculture before, ngayon, depende na lang kasi ang dami kasi mapuproduce ng machines. Ngayon, yung sometimes na ngayon, ang pagtatanim, hindi na ginagawa talaga ang pangailangan. Oftentimes, hobby na lang po yung iba. So, subsistence na lang kasi kaya na naman. So, dumating naman tayo dito sa umabot tayo naman sa post-industrial societies and the information age. So, post-industrial societies, also known as information societies, have evolved in modernized nations. One of the most valuable goods is information. Those who have the means and produce and store dissemination informations are leaders of this type of society. So, meron sila information. They can share information, valuable information, so that people may learn, people may have the knowledge. So sila yung dito, example dito sa social media. Social media kasi parang yung bridge of information ang bilis na. Since mabilis naman mag-communicate ng information, so yung greatest commodity dito is information. Kasi nga, information is important. Kaya mayroon din kasabihan, di ba, na isang click mo lang, may information ka na. So, indeed, information talaga. Paano sila nagkakapera dyan sa mga information nila? Example, nag-vlog sila, may mga advertising dyan sa mga information nila, pinapaniwalaan sila ng mga tao. So, mga ganun and the like. Okay? One way is scholars understand the development of different types of societies like agricultural, industrial, and post-industrial is by examining their economies in terms of 4 sectors. So, paano dito ini-examine ng isang sociologist, ng mga researchers kung ano yung na-type na sector yung country na yan or yung mga tao niyan. So, each has different focus. Example, meron tayo dito mga primary sector na economies or societies. So, yung mga primary sector, sila yung extract and produce raw materials. Sila yung pinanggalingan ng mga raw materials sa mga crops na yan. Okay? So, meron din tayong secondary sectors. Turns those raw materials into finished product or goods. Okay? Meron din tayong tertiary sectors. Provide services. Okay? Childcare, healthcare, money management. Finally, we have quaternary sector. Produce ideas. So, sila yung, kung sa mga kuwan pa nito, kibalis kung dito sa secondary, may mga machine sila, yung quaternary sector, sila yung mga nagre-research ng mga technologies, mga design. Sa kanila galing yun. Okay? And let's move on to ano ba yung capitalism. Okay? So, companies sell stock to raise capital that they can invest in new projects involving the company and producing the means for further generation. So, capitalism is an economic system in which there is private ownership. So, para mga private people, mga elite, as opposed to state ownership or socialism, and where there is an impetus to profit produce and whereby wealth. So, example dito, nag-invest ka sa isang company, tumutubo yan, no? Tapos yung tubo mo, ini-invest mo naman, hanggang sa yumayaman ka na. Yung capitalist kasi, profit-oriented, no? Profit lang talaga yung kanya, hindi siya open time sa impact or anong legacy niya. Basta kung maraming pera dyan, invest lang siya dyan, okay, yan yun. Okay, so, let's move on to ano ba yung practice ng capitalist. So, as capitalists began to dominate the economies of many countries during Industrial Revolution, the rapid growth of business and the tremendous profitability gave some owners the capital they needed to create enormous corporations. Okay? Yan yung mga kapitalista, yung mga corporation, company, and oftentimes they monopolize, okay, the economy. And oftentimes the society. Meron din tinatawag, di ba, ng mga oligarchs or the like. Ano naman na economic system ang socialism? Socialism is an economic system in which there is a government ownership. So, ang government, sila yung nag-o-own ng mga services. Example, oftentimes dito, yung government nag-o-own ng electric company, water, and oftentimes nagmamayari ng mga mall. So, sila yung mga socialisms. So, example dito, with the impetus to share work and wealth equally among members of society. Meron din naman private ownership dito, pero limited lang. But unlike talaga sa sa capitalist, pag capitalista kasi yung isang nation, ang daming business naman dyan, halos ang dami. Halos yung state or yung nation, wala siya pang may-ari sa mga malalaking kumpanya. But unlike the socialism, state or nation yung nagmamayari sa mga malalaking kumpanya. Okay? So, capitalists criticize socialism, so socialism criticize the capitalist. So, meron tayong tinatawag na market socialism, described as subtype of socialism that adopts certain types of capitalism like allowing limited private ownership. So, ito na yon. Although socialism, may pagmamayari yung government, still there is market socialism. Meron pa rin pagmamayari yung other people, private ownership. So long as, oftentimes kasi, binibigyan ito ng karapatan ng gobyerno na magmamayari yung private, so long as they can provide the best services for the nation. May mga ganun na mga country. So may survey tayo dito. This map shows continuous adaptive socialism, a socialist economy at some point. So yung mga pula, more than 60 years na sila dito ng mga country. Oftentimes, I think, parang European countries sila, Western. Socialist in practice, as with capitalism, the basic ideas behind socialism go far beyond the history. So Plato in ancient Greece suggested a republic in which people share their common material. So example sa Christian communities dito, common ownership na parang pamilya talaga. Okay? May mga ganun na mga parang siyang tinatawag din ni Proudhon na mutualism, which under individuals and cooperative groups would exchange products with one another in the basis of mutually satisfactory contracts. Meron dito yung tinatawag dito na convergence theory. Convergence theory explains that a country's economy grows, its social organization changes to become more likely industrialized society. So, nagkakameron ng converge. Pero may effect talaga yung economy talaga sa society ng isang tao, no, sa isang country. And yan na yung tinatawag na convergence. There is a change in the economy, in the society, as long as there is an abrupt transformation in the economy to the society. So sociologists look for signs of convergence and divergence in the societies of countries have joined European Union. So sila dito ang European Union convergence. The theory is also known also as catch-up effect because the economies of poor countries have capital investment in them will generally grow faster than, example dito, yung mga developed countries, nag-grow din sila. Okay? So, nag-converge sila. Parang ina-adapt in other country itong idea dito sa other country. So, nagkakameron dito ng catch-up effect. Nag-i-improve din yung other countries so long as there is nag-converge yung other countries sa mga ideas, products, in their economy. So, ano yung functionalist perspective natin dito? So, the functionalist perspective would assume that the continued health of the economy is vital to the health of the nation as it ensures distribution of goods and services. So, positive yung nakikita ng functionalist na meron talagang vital role yung economy natin sa society. For example, we need food to travel from farms, high-functioning efficient agricultural system via roads, safe and effective tracking of rail routes, urban centers, high-density areas where workers can gather. And typically, the markets go through phases of surplus, yung mga sobra na yung mga produkto, inflation, where the money in your pocket today buy less. So, example, tumataas yung bilihin, yung sweldo mo, maliit lang, okay? Less than it did yesterday, and the recession yung mangyayari, which occurs when 2 or more consecutive quarters of economic decline. So, nag-decline na yung economy. Meron dito yung tinatawag na, in reality na, depression. So, to control the risk of economic depression or sustained recession, so, parang tumagal yung recession. So, recession kasi oftentimes seasonal lang. Pag tumagal yung recession sa economy, yung tawag na doon, depression. No, depression na siya. And the US government will often adjust interest rates to encourage more spending. In short, letting the national cycle fluctuate, it is not a gamble most governments are willing to take. So, pinapababa nila to, pinapababa nila yung stock para pag may bumili, kasi palugi na, kung mahal pa rin yung stock, walang bibili, baka umabot sa depression yung economy. So, depende yan sa isang president kung ano yung advice sa kanya ng economic advisor niya. For a conflict perspective theorist naman, sabi dito, an economy is not a source of stability in contrast to functionalist. Instead, economy reflects and reproduces economic inequality, particularly capitalist marketplace. So, example ito, capitalism talaga, na trabahante ka lang hanggang mamatay ka, trabahante ka lang yung mayaman, yung ibang tao, yung mga elite, yung mga oligarchs, yun yung nakikita ng mga conflict perspective theorists natin. Parang exploitative, no? Anyways, so, meron dito yung tinatawag na symbolic interaction perspective. Those working in the symbolic interaction perspective take a macro-analytical view of society, focusing on the way reality is socially constructed through day-to-day interaction. So, ano yung nakikita na sa interaction and how society is composed of people communicating based on shared understanding of symbols. One important symbolic interaction is concept related to work and the country career. So, yung career ng isang tao. This concept means simply that children tend to enter similar occupation as their parents. So, oftentimes talaga, yung symbol talaga, pag mahirap siguro yung parents, pag mahirap yung anak, pag may symbol na nangyayari. Okay? And of course, we have globalization and economy. So, what is globalization? Simply, it refers to the process of integrating government culture. So, nag-integrate na lahat. Governments to governments, nag-share ideas, culture to culture, financial market to market. Kaya oftentimes kasi guys, di ba dito sa financially to culture. Pag may product ng US dito, oftentimes, yan na yung standard. Yan yung standard natin. Oftentimes, hindi natin natatangkilik yung sarili natin. Culture na yan. There is indeed a globalization na nangyayari na parang hindi natin natatangkilik. So, it is indeed pagpasok ng globalization. So, there are several components to the global economy and many changes that occur as countries grow more independent. First is the increasing number of global cities, okay, which headquarters multinational such as Coca-Cola, exercise significant political influence, influential sa media, mga BBC, host advanced communication. Second, we see the emergence of global assembly lines, where products are assembled over the course of several international transactions. Example dito, Apple. Yung Apple, American-based talaga siya. Yan yung globalization. Pero yung assemble sa other country, like China, kung yung kuhan down, dyan, of course, globalization, nakakapagtrabaho yung, even din sa Pilipinas, nakakapagtrabaho yung China, oftentimes then benefit din sa Amerika. There is globalization, sharing of financial markets, and of course, products and services. Globalization has also led to development of global commodity exchange, where internationally integrated economic links connect workers and corporations for the purpose of manufacture and marketing. For example, in maquiladoras, mostly pa Northern Mexico workers may sew imported pre-cut pieces and fabric garments. Of course, meron din yung na-division yung globalization. Oftentimes kasi, in which comparatively wealthy workers from coordination compete with low-wage laborers. Peripheral. This can lead to excess xenophobia, meaning nagkakameron ng hatred tayo sa mga oftentimes sa mga foreign kasi nakita na, ginagamit nyo lang kami, kinukunan nyo kami ng raw materials, pero kayo yung mayaman, kami dito, taga-bili sa kuhan nyo, naghihirap kami, ang mahal-mahal. Meron din dito aspects ng globalization. Globalized trade is nothing new, so societies in ancient Greece and Rome traded in societies in Africa and the like. So, one way to look at the similarities and differences that exist among economies, different nations, is compare the standard of living. So, the statistics most commonly used to do, this is domestic per capita is, example, GDP, okay, or gross domestic product, or per countries divided by its population. So, before pa to, way back 2004, ito yung GDP before, malaki talaga yung Qatar kasi oil doon. Of course, Liechtenstein, Luxembourg, Bermuda, Singapore, and oftentimes, ang laki ng mga nila, GDP, na mga mayayaman silang lugar. And example, work in the Philippines, no? Ano yung work sa mundo natin. And of course, dito, work sa atin talaga, employment, maghanap ka ng trabaho, magpagtrabaho ka. Ito yung sabi dito, American dream has always based on the opportunity. Yung American dream talaga, magkamiron ka ng bahay, pag pinaghirapan mo, mangyayari yan sa'yo, maghanap ka ng trabaho, pag pagtapos ka ng pag-aral, mag-asawa ka, negosyo ka, yun yung mga American dream na sinasabi dito. Ngayon din, napatok na yung real money in virtual world. Example, yung mga vloggers in the internet, no? Yung mayaman din sila dito. Sabi pa ito, real money in virtual world. In example, in gaming, di ba? May mga gamers tayo. Popularization in the workplace. More recently, the increased outsourcing, no, or contracting a job to sell jobs upon outside source or manufacturing jobs, developing nations has greatly diminished the number of high-paying, oftentimes unionized blue-collar passions. So, may outsourcing ng trabaho. Meron din tinatawag na automation sa pagtatrabaho. Oftentimes, dati tao yung nagtatrabaho. Ngayon, ino-automate na. Machine na or computers na yung nagtatrabaho. So, oftentimes, nawawalan na yung trabaho na yung mga tao kasi nagkakameron ng automation. Sabi dito, ng chart na to, this chart shows the projected growth of several occupations. So, ang paglaki daw ng mga occupations, so oftentimes lang yung pinakamalaki yung healthcare. Diba? Before, dumating sa point na ang laki ng tumaas yung nursing talaga. No, oftentimes nga, yung nursing, nag-stop na yung nag-offer yung iba kasi nga, ang dami ng nursing, nag-aabroad na lang yung iba kasi walang trabaho dito. Of course, community and social services din, mga social workers, okay, segue lang, okay. So, example dito, meron din personal care and services. Yung mga personal care and services. Of course, meron din health, sales, and the like. Sabi dito sa kuha natin dito, more education, more means of jobs. Pag nakapag-aral ka, ito, example, master's degree ka, okay, ang laki pag master's degree ka. Pag bachelor's ka, 17 lang. Pag associate's degree naman, 18 dito ang laki. Malaki ng percent niya. Malaki talaga, parang yung case dito ba, kung malaki yung pinag-aralan mo, greater chance din na malaki yung maraming makakapagtrabaho pag may pinag-aralan. Totoo naman. Of course, poverty naman sa economy. Pag yung economy ng isang country talaga, bagsak, nagresulta siya sa economy. Poverty, kahirapan, underemployment, may trabaho nga, hindi naman angkop sa pinag-aralan ng isang tao. Of course, unemployment, walang trabaho. Walang trabaho yung mga tao. Okay, may mga survey tayo dito. Mga poverty rates, tumataas yung poverty rates, may mga edad pa. Sa mga edad na to, sa mga bracket ng edad na to, tumataas yung unemployment. And of course, let's move on naman sa second topic natin, health and medicine. Alam naman natin ngayon na COVID ngayon, the issue of health is indeed alarming and the vaccine is also interesting and mysterious. Okay? So move on to learning objectives natin. So vaccines can slow, halt, or spread disease, but some families refuse them. Learning objectives, social construction of health, global health, and health in the United States or even in the world. So sabi dito, even before talaga, sociologists, meron yung mga tinatawag na nag-study sila ng health in connection sa society, anong impact ng society. So ang tawag dyan is medical sociology. Okay, so even before talaga, cultural meaning of meron talagang illness. So ano ba yung meaning ng illness? So medical sociology contend that illness have both biological and experiential component. And this component exists independent of each other. Sa kultura, sa biology talaga, may mga illnesses. And our culture, not our biology, dictates which illness are stigmatized. So, depende sa kultura ng isang tao kung i-stigmatize ba yan or hindi. And depende naman sa other culture, it varies. Okay, so for instance, sociologist Goffman, describes how social stigmas hinder individuals from fully integrating into society. Sabi dito, the stigmatization of illness often has the greatest effect on the patients. Meron ito yung tinatawag na contested illness are those that are questioned or questionable by some medical professionals. Of course, meron ito social construction of illness experience. The idea of the social construction of illness experience is based on the concept reality as social construction. In other words, there is no objective reality. There are only our own perceptions. So, it's the way talaga yung nasakit ba yan siya or hindi, or maybe ganito. Depends lang sa perception natin. Oftentimes kasi, hindi naman siya sakit, pinapasobra natin yung perception natin kung ano yung sakit at saka yung hindi. Sa iba namang country, kaya naman gamutin yan. Sa atin, natatakot tayo. Baka kulang natin sa medicine and health. Depende na sa perception natin. Hbse pain rating helps healthcare providers assess individuals' levels of pain. What might symbolic interactions observe? What about this method? Okay? Of course, meron din ditong social construction of medical knowledge. Conran and Baker show how medical knowledge is socially constructed. That is, it can both reflect and reproduce inequalities of gender, race, and ethnicity. Conrad Baker used the example of social construction of women's health and how medical knowledge has changed significantly. So, for instance, example talaga, yung pregnancy talaga, sila talaga, yung mga babae talaga, sila yung focus talaga ng health talaga kasi alarming yung pagbubuntis and unborn. So, from smoking, drinking today. So, discourage yung mga babae dito sa drinking kasi nga daw, baka nakakasama sa kanila. And oftentimes, sa mga lalaki, parang okay lang. So, global health, meron tayong social epidemiology. It is the study of causes and distribution of diseases. Social epidemiology can reveal how social problems are connected to health and population. Oftentimes, example, mahirap, poverty, baka naman yung mga tao nagkakasakit kasi may sakit, hirap magbayad ng hospital or walang trabaho. Medyo may mga ganun na mga connections. And oftentimes kasi sa mga malalayang lugar, oftentimes baka walang trabaho yung mga tao, nagsasakit yung mga bata, walang mapakain. There is this relationship talaga in diseases and the like. And meron din ditong health in high-income nation. Of course, yung health high-income nations talaga, oftentimes natitreat nila yung mga sakit sa kanila na mga high. Example dito, ganun. And Wallace and Hoffman and his fellow researchers contend how several factors are contributing to the rise of obesity. Oftentimes kasi, di ba, pag high health ng isang nations, kasi maraming nakakain eh. Mayaman, maraming pagkain. Oftentimes daw, yung obesity, pagiging mataba, okay? Mataas din yung rate doon. So, improve technology, okay, unhealthy goods, may mga ganun na mga study nila sa obesity. Isa pa dito, high-income countries also have higher rates of depression, no, than less affluent. Ganun din mga mangyayari ng mga depressive. How about the health of low income? So, sabi dito, hindi siya obese. Lumaki yung siya ng bata kasi walang makain, mga bulate. Kawawa naman. So, walang panggamot. Kawawa yung mga bata talaga sa mga low-income nations. Okay? So, health in the world naman. Of course, health in the world talaga. And oftentimes, may mga example dito, health natin dito sa COVID. It becomes a pandemic. So, ano yung issue dito? So, health in the world is a complex and more contradictory issue. On the other hand, as one of the wealthiest nations, economy, oftentimes example sa other country, almost may mga iba, 80 to 90% na vaksina na itayo, wala pa. Kasi yung vaccine po kasi natin, hindi yan libre. It is just purchased. Binibili po natin yan. Oftentimes siguro inuutang pa yan. Okay, so sa ating maliit pa na porsyento, hindi pa siguro umabot ng 60 to 70% yung nabakunahan. Okay? And health by race and ethnicity then, Lisa Berkman notes that this gap is started narrow civil rights movement in the but began widely. What accounts for this perpetual disparity? So, oftentimes talaga may mga minority groups talaga na napapag-iwanan no, sa mga health. Example, mas yung mga report identifies racial inequalities, yung mga Black Americans, dun, may mga racial discriminations dyan, mga Native Alaskans, Asian, among other, napapag-iwanan sila. And health naman sa socio-economic, of course, the more may pera ka, no, socio-economic status mo, the more ka magka-avail ng health. Yan talaga. Kaya nga, yung kasing tinatawag ng mga private hospitalization, mayaman lang yung nakaka-afford dyan. And oftentimes kasi, public hospitalization ng government, limited lang yung supply. Unless pag may pera ka, sa private ka, you can have a lot of choices or options. Kung wala kang pera, yung economic status naman hindi ganun kaltaas, hintay-hintay ka lang. Oftentimes, namamatay na lang isang tao, wala pang tulong. And health by gender din, iba yung issue ng health ng lalaki at saka babae. Okay, so, medicalization refers to the process by which previously normal aspects of lives are redefined as deviant. So, example dito, yung pagtutulog, no? Sobrang pagtutulog sa trabaho or walang gana. And oftentimes daw, sinali na daw siya para i-medicate. Example dito sa mga symptoms, sa mga walang sleep hygiene, walang tulog, walang kain, no, lack of exercise. Meron tayo dito sa health and mental health and disability. Hindi rin natin mawawala to kasi oftentimes sa COVID, there are suicide rates, depression, anxiety, okay, and the like, insanity, and of course, mga disabled na mga tao, disability. Mental health, so according to the National Institute of Mental Health, meron dito yung common mental health orders, anxiety nga, mood disorders, personality disorders. And of course, mga disability din. The handicap accessible signs indicate that people with disabilities can access facility. Pag may mga ganito na sign, oftentimes nire-require kasi ito, dapat daw, may mga ganito, example dito, may mga wheelchair, dapat hindi hagdanan po. Yun pong nadaanan na wheelchair, hindi na po. Para po, yung mga disabled na tao, person with disability, madali lang silang makatawid. Okay? So, disability refers to a reduction in one's ability to perform everyday tasks. The World Health Organization, the WHO, makes a distinction between the various terms used to describe handicap. That's important. So, handicap na yung tawag to social perspective kasi nga oftentimes yung disability discriminatory. This use the term impairment to describe the physical, yung impairment naman, physical limitations lang. Oftentimes, while reserving the term disability to refer to social limitations. Okay? People with disabilities can be stigmatized by illnesses. So, may tinatawag tayong stigmatization, in-exploit, nililabel na iba kayo, ganito kayo, mahina, and the like. Obesities are example of acceptable prejudice. Oftentimes talaga, pag mataba yung isang tao, parang ina-accept na lang. No? Pero oftentimes talaga, may pala siyang health issues. And the like. Kasi oftentimes, okay, I'm not being judgment. Oftentimes yung mga obese talaga, mayayaman yan. And if you try to, ganito ka, you have health problems, okay? Mayayaman yun sila. Kaya nga mataba yan eh. Okay? And meron din tayong comparative health and medicine. Meron tayong tinatawag dito na public health, yung sa government funded, and private health na privately funded. Okay, yung tinatawag. There are broad structural differences between among healthcare systems in the countries. May mga country, guys, example, Norway, sabi ng professor namin, it is a welfare state. Libre lahat. No, lahat sagot ng gobyerno. Pati pag-aaral nga, yung iba binabayaran pa kasi opentas yung mga tao kasi doon, mayayaman na. Wala silang ma-produce na siguro mga engineer, other doctors, professionals. Wala na nag-aaral. Kaya lumiit yung professionals. Pag nag-aaral ka doon, binabayaran ka pa. Kaya nga, maraming scholarship doon. Gusto mo mag-aaral doon? Pwede rin. Many Americans worry that government oversight, so of course, may yung issue natin dito, PhilHealth, no? Nagpatol dito sa Pilipinas. Healthcare elsewhere, so clearly, healthcare in the United States are areas for improvement. So, sa dito, healthcare natin dito is PhilHealth, there's still improvement. Under socialized medicine system, the government owns and runs system. So, ito yung mga socialized medicines, yung government, yung bumabayad. And meron na tinatawag na universal healthcare. Yun talagang healthcare talaga na gobyerno yung nagmamayari. Okay? At para sa lahat, theoretical perspective tayo sa health. So, functionalist, according to functionalist perspective, health is a vital role to the stability of society. Kasi nga, example, kung yung mga tao, masakit lahat yung mga tao, walang health, no? Yung economy babagsak, walang magtatrabaho, kasi kaya burden pa. Mahal kaya gamot. And therefore, sickness is sanctions for the deviance. The comparisons was the first to discuss this in terms of sequel patterns of exploitation that define appropriate behavior for the sick and for those who take care of them. Sa conflict perspective naman natin, meron din theories. Conflict perspective suggests that issue with healthcare is with more social problems rooted with capitalism. Example dito sa capitalist, according to conflict perspective, capitalism pursuit to profit. Kasi health kasi, pag health na yung pinausapan, of course talagang taas kamay ka na. You really have, pansinin mo talaga. And mahal, magkasakit. And oftentimes, nagiging commodification na nagiging negosyo na yung health. Of course, mga ganun talaga, ini-exploit yung mga services, mahal. And oftentimes, mga mayayaman na yung mga dominant people lang daw yung nakakuan. Ini-exploit yung mga mahirap. Yun yung nakikita ng mga conflict perspective. Symbolic interactionism naman, according to this theorist, working with this perspective, health and illness are both socially constructed. Depende kung binibigyan mo yun ng simbolo, kung sa inyo sakit yan, kung sa inyo okay lang yan, depende. Example, kung mataba, sa inyo okay lang yan, sa inyo mahal nyo yung mga taong yan, sa inyo kinokondem nyo yan, depende. As we discussed in the beginning of the chapter, interaction focus on the specific meanings, and focus niya on the illnesses. The term modification of deviance refers to the process that changes bad behavior. So, yung bad behavior, ngayon sickness na, yun yung modification of deviance. And yung demedicalization naman, yung bad before, yung sickness before, parang normal na. Example dito sa mga medicalization natin, example ganito, pag-iinom, no, pag-iinom. In this engraving, king alcohol is shown as the skeleton. Yung pag-iinom talaga, hindi na pwede. An example of medicalization is illustrated by the history of how society view alcohol and alcoholism. People who drank too much were considered bad, lazy people. So, oftentimes, okay lang yan, mag-inom. No, kasi, dumating na kasi sa point kasi that, in a religious perspective, wine na yung iniinom. And oftentimes, yung nagiging drunkard. Kasi before, walang tubig before, so we really have to drink wine. Kasi nga, madumi yung tubig before. Unlike ngayon, meron ng mga water stations. Pero nasobraan siya, naging bad na po yung being drunkard. Meron dito example dito, no, na there are numerous examples of the medicalization in the history. Slaves, yung mga slaves daw before na pagbayad utang sila, pag tumataka sila, okay lang, no? And of course, homosexuality. Before it's bad, even until now, and oftentimes, natanggap na natin daw ngayon, no, yung homosexuality.